Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Planning Commission for Monday, August 5th, 2024. Roll call.
Chairperson Smith,
Here.
Commissioner Pogachnik, Commissioner Petrangelo,
Here.
Commissioner Carholios,
Here.
Let the record also show that ex officio Pat Green and Tina Glad are in attendance, as well as the city administrator Brzezinski. Approval of the minutes. Approval of the Planning Commission minutes for July 22nd, 2024. No corrections, additions, or deletions, if any.
So approved. I second.
It's been moved and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Acceptance of the agenda. Acceptance of the agenda for recording purposes. Note additions, deletions, if any changes. I'll move the agenda.
I will second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Agenda carries. New business. At this time, we'll convene the public hearing scheduled for this time to consider a conditional use permit request of North Star Church of Hibbing, 2221 First Avenue, Hibbing, Minnesota, to allow for the operation of a church in the C2 General Commercial District and the Hibbing City Code of Ordinances, which is permitted only with a conditional use permit on the subject property, 212 East Howard Street, Hibbing, Minnesota. Staff report.
The applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to have a church use in the C2 zoning district at 212 East Howard Street. A conditional use is required for religious uses in the C2 zoning district. The building was originally designed as a coffee shop, a hair salon, and a conference meeting area. The coffee shop will still exist, and the conference area would become an assembly area for the North Star Church. The hair salon area would become a Sunday school area used on Sundays. The applicant has submitted how the church operation would work and an explanation for parking during church services on Sunday. At this time, no conditions. I'll turn it back to you, Chair.
Okay, thank
And
you.
you did receive a letter from Yoder Supplies?
In support, yeah, I see that. You want me to read it in for the record, or?
I think so.
Okay. This is from Yoder Building Supplies dated July 30th. It says, "Good morning. Regarding the public hearing requesting a conditional use permit in the C2 General Commercial District by North Star Church, I would like to show my support and encourage the city to grant the request. If parking is an issue, people are welcome to park in the parking lot at Yoder Building Supplies at the above address, and also across the road by the fenced-in yard at 1831 3rd Avenue East. Main Street Hibbing needs this positive influence on the weekends and also throughout the week with any programs that North Star Church brings to the community. Thank you. Trenda Yoder, Yoder Building Supplies." Do we have anybody in the audience, the applicant, that would like to speak about this? Can you come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Jacob Mount at North Star Church. It's 2221 First Avenue, Hibbing, Minnesota.
Can you kind of give us just a brief overview of what you're looking at doing here at this site and stuff for your
Sure.
services and that?
Yeah, so the building itself will be used, as Pat had mentioned, with the exception of Sunday services Sunday morning. During the week, Lord willing, the coffee shop are going to be open 6 days a week. Of course, through permitting and all that process is our goal and our desire to serve the community during the week, and on Sunday have worship services. And then our office will be open during the week as well for people to come in, have questions or counseling, encouragement, things like that, as we do on First Avenue. But on Howard Street, there will be more traffic. That's the basic overview of that. The building itself won't change externally, it'll be inside, just to meet our needs a little bit.
Okay.
Some
Commissioners?
questions.
John?
I have some questions for you. What are your church hours gonna be? Like on Sunday, what's your
Oh,
service?
Sunday would be 10 a.m. start time.
And is it an hour, 2 hours?
Usually an hour and a half to 2 hours, so
Okay.
10 to noon.
And what about during the week? Do you have, different things going on during the week, children things, certain things for your church? And what are the hours or that? Does it, obviously it must vary some, but you must have kind of a.
Correct. It does vary some, but on schedule, Wednesdays at 6:30 PM, 6:30 to 8 or 6:30 to 8:30 would be children. Right now, it would just be K through 6. They'd have a children's church, basically, a Wednesday night service. That's
Do you have a
basically
Wednesday night service also besides the Sunday?
for children.
Oh,
Yeah.
for children?
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's
okay. I
a smaller
see.
assembly.
All right. Another question, do you have weddings at your church?
In the future, like right now, we're renting
you don't,
space, but
I mean, are you, so you have never had any weddings since you've been the North Star Church, or you're saying, or?
we have in the mall where there's space.
Okay.
We're in Victory Christian Academy right now, so it's very hard to schedule that space where it won't interfere with school hours. Summer, it could happen, but typically where we're at now, we've used other church space or rented space. I'm sure that would be an option if it could be. It's not a deal breaker, but it would be nice to be able to do things on the place that we're currently going to.
See, the problem I have a little bit about this, okay, and nothing against weddings, don't get me that, is, Saturdays can get busy downtown on Hibbing, you know? You've got the restaurants, you have the bar restaurants type of situation, and if you had let's say, another 200 people, or let's just use that as a prime, that's not even really a big wedding, to be honest with you, then I might see a little bit of a problem, because of parking on Howard Street, because you're taking up spots. I mean, you've got the You-Do thing on the corner, you've got Sammy's Pizza right down the block from you, and we know how busy they can get. I mean, you've got, a few places.
And that new place just opened as well,
Yeah, that's right.
Thursday.
What's that called?
the Iron Horse.
Oh, that Iron Horse too, yeah, that's right, the Iron Horse just opened up. I mean, you're a little away from Sportsman's, but still, Sportsman's, takes up a block or more at a time. So now, you take up, coming the other way. I see a little bit, I'm not saying it's gonna be a major problem, but it's something for us to consider, And, I mean, obviously, in another situation, well, what about funerals? Do you do funerals at your church?
We can't predict that, but I can tell you that almost 3 years I've been a pastor, I've done 3 weddings, and I've done 2 or 3 funerals,
Okay.
but that typically may not be at that location. Some have been at the funeral home, some have been at other
Yeah,
churches.
I know a lot of them are, but I'm just saying, and that would be during the daytime, so,
And then we do have permission from US Bank to park there off hours.
yeah.
We would
They're off
consi-
hours, but that, funerals are usually daytime, so that would be on hours.
Depending on the
Well, I mean, I
situation,
haven't
correct.
seen too many funerals that, it's usually during, I'm just, these are all questions I'm asking because I'm not,
And if that's,
don't get me wrong that I'm against this, but I'm just trying to figure out a little bit of a situation that we could end up with.
right,
And,
If that is
and
a-
a lot of times, I mean, as far as during the week, I don't see any problem with it, to be very honest with you. I don't think it's gonna be that big of a deal. But, on some of those weekend things or something, and not that it's super busy, but, the restaurants get busy, well, like I said, between Sportsman, Sammy's, these other places that we have, downtown, a couple of them. And, you still have vendors that does a lot of business, some, and they all are open, so.
if that's a concern, we've already looked at other options for those times where during the week things are busier. I know plenty of business owners that are farther away. A lot of church assemblies have parking lots not on the premises. They shuttle people. So if that is a concern for those few times a year items,
Well,
that's
yeah,
something
I
that we
mean,
can work around and.
Yeah, I'm not trying to make a big deal out of it, don't get me wrong, I'm
Yeah.
just trying to, you know,
Yep.
you say 3 or 4 during a year or something, I mean, that's a lot difference as compared to, you know, some of the churches, you know, that have them.
Right, and most of what that building can contain, if it's gonna be a smaller service, so if it's a larger than 180 or 200, whatever that room's made for, we're gonna have to go to a larger
So
facility anyways.
what is the capacity for your church area?
I think it was a previously approved for meeting of 200 people. I think we have right now, looking at our space for seating and capacity, we're figuring 180 chairs. We're typically around between 100 to 130 right now.
Okay,
With the parking between US Bank and Yoder's, that covers our congregation and then some. Depending on the numbers you look online are from a parking space for every 2 to 4, so I split that in the middle, that's 60 spaces, which we are over with those 2 locations for a Sunday service. And those off times, if it's a different.
like I said, I'm not so worried about the Sunday service type of thing, I'm more worried about those other 2 issues that I think could get brought up and, you know.
Can I,
What?
can I piggyback off this question a little bit?
No problem.
I know in the past, when the North Star, you guys used to be at the mall, correct?
Correct.
So when you were operating out of there, I know, for example, that you did rent space out, like the church would rent its space out. Do you plan on doing that at this location?
We don't have the full plan on what the future will hold, but it could be an option for the community. That's what it would be for, is to serve the community however we can. So that would be an option, that's what we're here for.
Correct. Well, but I'm kind of with John here. My concern is putting another event venue downtown without we're already strapped for parking. So if you're planning on renting the space out as an event venue, then that's different than your church service, obviously.
Our draw is to serve the community however we can. So if that's getting people here, look at bringing more people into the Howard Street, will also help the other businesses in there for before and after. We're here to do whatever we can to help the community, not hinder it.
We're not saying you're here
Right,
hindering the
absolutely.
community by any means, you know, don't take it wrong there. But we're just, we have to know the parameters, you know, of what's going on, so when we make that vote, because it, you know, ultimately, you know.
So if special events or unscheduled events, if you want to put them that way, are a concern, we can figure out a place to bring parking and we can shuttle people. I'm already prepared for that. I'm okay with that. We don't want to hinder we know this, we see the parking and it's been come up. We've seen the things in the news as well, coming through the studies for parking. We want to do whatever we can to help the community, not cause problems. So if
I
that's
mean, I see Sunday not being a problem, don't
Yes.
get me wrong, that's a total open, you know.
during the week, that's the thing.
During the week, you know what I mean, yeah, you say you can use first, across the street, but when they're in operation, they don't want you parking over there, and Yoda's sure isn't gonna, like, if you did have a funeral.
Right, so that would be
you
a
know,
consideration.
Wedding might be different, cause Yoda's is closed, the bank is closed, you know, that type of situation, and that would be Saturdays, you know, so.
That would be all in consideration, so that's what we would put in our paperwork if we're gonna do this, what's the day of the week, what's the time, so we don't wanna plug up, that's not our goal.
Well, no, we're not gonna tell you when you can do what.
Right.
No, but I'm just saying, we will consider all that.
Right.
In a special event case. We're
Right.
not there to, we don't wanna upset people. So if parking in the street and plugging that up on a special event, we'll find a place. I know I worked for Domix, we worked for RMS, we had lots of parking with a handful of businesses I already know in Hibbing, and others, there's places to go, and if we have to shuttle people, it's not a concern for me. And that's something we can just consider depending on the time of the day, work, parking load, and all those things, so. I can't predict the future of what will be happening, but if that's a concern for the community, we will work around that. That's our.
I guess you've answered my questions, and like I said, the only thing I was worried about was more of a Saturday type of thing, and we had something major coming in during the week, you know, it could be a little bit, but with, I guess we can live with a little inconvenience once in a while, you know, but I just don't want, I don't want any businesses coming to the city and say, hey, you know, they're taking up all my spots, and I used to own a business downtown, and I know how it is. I've had people say, well, well, I didn't come to your store because there's no place to park, because there's cars,
Right.
you know. It's not like you're at the mall where you're gonna walk from here to 2 blocks away to go or something, you know, at Mall of America or even, you know, whatever, wherever you're at, you know, but people want that convenience of being able to pull in front of your place, you know?
Yep.
So that was the part, I mean, I've experienced that, so I kinda know a little bit about it, you know?
I can understand
Being
that.
downtown for how many years, you know?
And our desire is to operate a coffee shop cafe during the week too, so we, most likely anything in that time period, the coffee shop would have to close down or do something.
Yeah.
So the goal is to be serving the community Monday through Saturday when we get to that point. We wouldn't want to hinder that as
So
well.
what are your hours for your coffee shop gonna be then?
I would like early morning to 9 PM, but I can't say
Yeah,
that now
well, no,
for
I
the
mean,
team,
you
but
know.
that's the desire, Monday
Yeah.
through Saturday is my heart. And if we can staff that, we can fund that, and
Sure.
that is the desire to have, some of the coffee shops close earlier, but it's to have that evening hours extended a little bit to have a place to gather. It's our hope, is to be a gathering place for the community.
So basically, the only thing you're really gonna do different is put up I presume a sign, right? Which you have to get a permit for,
Correct.
yeah. That's pretty much
Anything else?
No,
anything for you.
my only concern, like I said, was, if they're renting out the space, if that, you know, what does that look like? Because I know downtown venues fill up quick,
Yeah.
especially during the summer, grad parties, whatnot. So,
Well, they're not gonna
You
rent
know.
out for things like that, I wouldn't think. I mean, it's gonna be all church related. I mean, they're not gonna rent it out for grad parties or something, they're gonna, you know, for.
Well, that's what I'm trying to
ladies
ask,
things,
you know.
you know, but, well, thank you.
is that accurate?
If that's a concern, we haven't done that before, so I'm like,
Okay.
And
I rented space from you before, that's how I know. So I'm just curious as to what you plan on renting this space out as. When I rented space from you, it was out at the mall. And you kind of gave us the run of the place.
right,
So that's what I'm curious about.
we don't have a,
Sure, they could rent to any permitted use that's downtown already. You could have, and as far as a wedding, you know, you could have a wedding. Sammy's could have a small wedding, you know, their new area. And we do have public that, there is no off-street parking requirement in your own parking lot. So it's all public parking, first come, first serve right now. You know, we can't, they're just saying they're gonna try to accommodate, and Sundays usually isn't busy. So we have public parking behind Sammy's. We have public parking where the Blue Moon is, which is not far from there. That's a city parking lot right now, so it appears to be plenty of parking. Howard Street, you can never park on during the week. When I go to do an inspection somewhere, I'm parking a block and a half away or in the alley on.
I don't
Howard.
believe you walk a block and a half.
What's that?
I don't believe that you would even walk that far.
No, I wouldn't, but then I'll double park.
I was more concerned about the Howard Street type of area.
Correct.
That would get eaten up first, because somebody go, well, there's the building, oh, I'm gonna park here now, and I'm gonna be here for 5-6 hours.
they
or
can
something.
find one
Let's
on
saying it is a
Saturday.
wedding or something, that's what I
You're
meant,
not-
you know, that's what, because I've had that happen, you know, where somebody will go and, you know, and they'll park there for 3-4 hours, and I'm like, wait a minute now.
There is
you know.
no time limit right now.
Well, there used to be when we had an officer.
Years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
not, well, it hasn't been.
But right now, it's first come, first serve, and when you go during the week, it's hard to find a parking spot on Howard Street. Right,
Yeah, and
you
this
know.
would really add to it. Yeah,
So that may be more of a problem, is that people can park, we don't know if employees are parking there. Most businesses try to get them to park somewhere else, but there's not a lot of parking on Howard Street anyway.
well, I mean, there's
So
not
Sundays
supposed to be
would-
parking
is-
on Howard Street, you know.
Gonna be their busiest time as far as cars, and they do
Yeah,
have
I
the-
mean, Sundays, like I said, I don't see any problem with that. I mean, that's a wide open situation, you know. I was more worried about if he had some major function going on during the week and they're gonna eat up all those spots in front. Well, how would you like if they came down to your end, if they're on your end of the street? What would your father say?
I can't speak for him.
Well,
We're
what
far enough
would you
away.
say? okay? But what I'm saying is that, you know, you've got Sammy's on the other side, I mean, there are also businesses that have been around for a long time. And so, I mean, I am not, I hope I'm just not making a mountain out of a molehill, you know what I'm saying? I don't wanna make that bigger than what it should be, make it, I'm hoping, and I commend you for doing something with that building, because I think it's a nice building in an area of right in the, right in town that should be used. You know, and the coffee shop thing is gonna be definitely gonna be a plus. That's, I mean, I don't go to your church, so, but as far as your other things go, that's, I'm not trying to make it an issue, but I just want it brought up, and I want it on the record that I have brought it up, so. Anyhow,
Our
I'm done.
desire in all of that is to help the community, so if that's a concern, I can see it is, we will make arrangements to, like even now in the service, we park as far away as we can, so we leave spots for other people to make it convenient for them, and the same would go. We don't want negative thoughts or things towards the church body or the coffee shop during the week, so if that's one of the areas we are considering. So even on Sunday morning, I'm gonna ask our congregation to not park in front of Sammy's, that whole block, because they won't be open when we're there, but they will open soon after, so they
Yeah.
park this way, we have the other parking lot, we're gonna park away to not impede the people. We're not here to compete with space or compete parking. We want people to have a positive thought of when they think of North Star Church or the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Hey, look what they're doing, they're not, it's positive influence, and that's what we're going for.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you have the right idea, I totally understand the concept and everything. And I was just a little bit concerned about a couple of things. I've said it once, I've said it twice already, it's not during the weekend or the week so much, Sunday, because we know that's gonna be all wide open for you, It's just if you had something major, but like he says, it is first come, first serve, but, you're
I
gonna
kind of-
tie it up for 2 or 3 hours.
And I agree with you. I'm all for the church aspect. I just want to make sure that there's not other things that we're missing, like I said, about the renting space or whatever. And I think that he's answered
Issue with
that
them,
just
so.
fine.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to speak for or against this? If so, no, go ahead. Just come up and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you. My name's John Kerheen. My wife Julia is here. We're residents of Side Lake, Minnesota, and we own the property at 212 East Howard Street. We've been the property owners there for 10 years. We purchased it from the Jacobsons, who previously ran it as a clothier. As you may know, the mayor of Hibbing originally had that building built, and he had offices upstairs and developed rental space as well for apartment dwelling. 10 years ago, after serving in northern Minnesota for 40 years as a minister of the gospel, I served churches in Minneapolis and Duluth, International Falls, Virginia, and Side Lake, where we started a church. I'm pretty familiar with the zoning issues that come up with church properties and so on. I know congestion is usually an issue that comes to the table. I can say as a property owner over the last 10 years, I don't know that I've ever experienced congestion in downtown Hibbing. In fact, being born and raised in Chisholm and being very familiar with the Iron Range area, if anything, the cities on the Iron Range should be worried about decreased population and decreased traffic, not increased traffic. When we purchased this property, it was our intent to establish what we would view as a marketplace presence for the kingdom of God. Not a church per se, but to have a place that would be family-friendly, youth-friendly, and try and bring some life to downtown Hibbing. I remember hitchhiking many times from Chisholm as a youth over to Hibbing, to go to the canteen, to go to the events, to go to the sweet shop, to go to Bridgman's. And one of the exciting things of my youth in the 60s and early 70s was the vibrance of the Iron Range communities. And I think we may be looking, if I may offer this with due respect, I think we may be looking at this differently than we should be. It would behoove the city, in my opinion, after owning that property for 10 years, that the city would take proactive steps to develop more public parking in downtown Hibbing so that we can build the business community and enhance family participation in the community. And so when we were approached by North Star Church that they were looking for a venue, you know, we've had events where we've housed upwards of 200 people for, I should say, youth events. We've had some musical venues there. We've also hosted political events, pretty much open. In fact, we even had a church that rented for a period of about 6 months, and evidently they didn't apply for any kind of permitting on that, but it was a smaller group, I think 25 to 30 people. Concerning the cafe, we've operated the cafe for 10 years up until January. We had to close it because of some family deaths and personal issues. But as I look and listen to the comment of the general public that comes into the cafe at any time, people, you know, how can I don't have documentation for this, so this is hearsay, but people would generally say, what's happened to Hibbing? It's a ghost town. And I've been here, you know, we've operated the cafe at times when we first opened from 8 a.m. Monday through Sunday and into the evening hours. And again, the problem hasn't been making room for people, it's trying to get people to come downtown. And so this, to me, would be an excellent opportunity for families to see that there are things down here, and it may encourage some of the other properties to go under rehabilitation. My wife and I have, with the help of HEDA and a loan from Security State Bank and over $300,000 of our own money, have invested upwards of between $800,000 and $900,000 in that property over the last 10 years. Why have we done this? Because we believe in Hibbing, we believe in the Iron Range, and we think that the families are the best bet for getting our cities back to where they should be, especially if we have an administration that believes in mining and brings mining back to the Iron Range as it should be, and other technology. We need things down here, and so I would just appeal to you to not only make room for this, but use this as an opportunity to say, how can we develop more public parking? Even to the point of saying, is it worth putting a public ramp downtown in Hibbing? You drive to Duluth, and I've been doing business because we've had side businesses. I've been in Duluth weekly for the last 10, 15 years as well. And you might see the development of the west part, the corridor from 21st Avenue West and out. They're really doing a great job of developing that. And I see that they're working on parking. I wouldn't doubt that there will be parking ramps in that part of the city shortly. And that's the kind of thing I think that we as a community need to do in a far-reaching approach. And so with that, I just thank you for the privilege to speak today and hope that you'll approve North Star Church's use of our property. And I might say this too, that if this adds any value, that, you know, we've been paying taxes faithfully on that property for 10 years, and we just paid off $60,000 worth of loans to HEDA. And so I hope that's all advanced the cause of Hibbing, and we're still paying a mortgage to Security State Bank, which I'm sure they appreciate as well. And so I think these folks, you'll find them to be pro-Hibbing as well. Any questions for me before I would sit down?
Why is everybody looking at me?
I just pulled it.
Well, I commend you on what you did to, keeping that building the way it is and everything. And as far as parking used to be a problem even many years ago, you talk about Duluth, you got over 100,000 people there. You got 14,000 people here. Obviously, that is gonna, I think this city has done a pretty good job of what there is. It's not on-street parking, it's off-street parking where you park your car and walk half a block or a block to get to Howard Street. So I don't think that is the really major thing. I was looking at cars parking on Howard Street and being stuck there. I mean, as they were gonna be there for lengths of time, you know. Sammy's, you see people going round and around the block looking for a spot to park on Howard Street if they can. They do park in those other ramps, that's just using one. Now, the church, things are, during the daytime, that's probably gonna be our thing for them too. They're gonna have to use one of those other parking lots, We're not against this, and we're not trying to say that I guess, it's more me than anybody, but, we're not, we want businesses in town. If you think that that's not what we're looking for, you're sadly mistaken there, because the city is, with this new economic developer person that they have, she seems very active in what she's doing. So, I mean, it's not like we're sitting on our thumbs, they are working on it. And as far as your building, I think your building's nice. I think it's never been an eyesore, you have apartments upstairs or something? 'Cause
We've
you have
been
those little
renovating
windows up
those
there.
over these 10 years, and 4 of the apartments are active, and we're just turning the corner on finishing the other
Yeah.
2, and
So, I mean, that's adding people to
And-
downtown right there,
And may I add, and again, just as, I know this isn't on your agenda tonight, but in repeated visits to Hibbing, or to Virginia, for instance, you all know how they have a diagonal parking arrangement on their main drag. And this has been a topic of conversation in the coffee shop I listen to, whether it's Kurt from the Carpet Plaza or Mike. Well, I can name names, but we've got about 8 or 10 local businessmen that come in for coffee on a regular basis, and they're frustrated about how traffic is managed in downtown Hibbing. And I think it would behoove the city to do a review of how we can better facilitate moving people in and out. Even timing, I've been ticketed numbers of times for parking in front of my own building or parking in the alley, and that's a frustration to me. And I think there's better ways that parking could be managed. And this is a great opportunity to say, hey, how could we do this? So, again, thank you for your time, and if you have any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to speak for or against this? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing at this time.
You got facts?
Yeah, finding of facts. Okay, number 1, the building or use is specifically listed as a conditional interim use in the regulations applicable to the district in which it is to be located. And the answer is yes for that. Number 2, the proposed building or use at the particular location requested is necessary or desirable to provide convenience and will contribute to the general welfare of the neighborhood or the community.
Yes, I would agree it would.
I would agree with that too, yeah. And it seems like, the parking issue for the most part is not gonna be an issue for them because it's the times that they're doing things, so. That, number 3, that the proposed building or use will not have a substantial or undue adverse effect upon adjacent property, the character of the neighborhood, traffic conditions, utility facilities, and other matters affecting the public health, safety, and general welfare. I would agree with that too. Most of their stuff is gonna be actually on the weekends where there isn't as much traffic downtown anyway, so. Number 4, that the proposed building or use will be designed, arranged, and operated so as to permit development and use of neighboring property in accordance with the applicable district regulations. I would agree with that. I mean, it's the same building, the coffee shop's really already there, so they're not really changing the structure, or anything, so. Okay, now the finding of facts. The proposed building or uses, oh, that's what we just did, right? Yeah, that's a blank page. Okay, we're done with that. So, what's your desires? I'll make a motion that we approve this. It seems to me like they've got pretty good arrangements for their parking, and they've talked to some of the other businesses and stuff, and are willing to shuttle people in and stuff if there's, events during the week and stuff that.
Well, and we're doing it with no conditions on it, and that a little bit is kind of why I've been a little more silent about it. I just, I just like Pat said about, the parking, it's on a first come, first served basis. I mean, anything after 6 o'clock other than the restaurants, everything else is closed down.
Yeah.
All of the stores are basically shut down by then. Maybe a beauty shop or something might be open, within that next block and that. The bank is closed, which brings a lot of traffic. The people who have businesses in the Lee, the Lee building there on the corner, they're usually all gone by then. So, I mean, I like the idea of the coffee shop there, and the church is fine as far as I'm concerned. I think they need a place, and if they have 130-some people or more, I think, it's probably a good idea for it. I'd rather make sure that they do off parking first, and then if it gets filled, go the other way, especially if they do something on weekends during the week, but if it's after 6 o'clock, I don't, see too much of a problem, so I'll put a yes on it. I'll make the second motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda, open discussion. Anybody have anything for,
Nothing from me.
I don't see anything really, no.
seeing none, we'll move for adjournment.
I would so move.
I'll second that. Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor? Yes.
This will go to.
Oh, it's city
the
council.
Recommendation to the council.
When,
What
what meeting, what
It
dates?
would be August 21st.
Okay, so you want to be in attendance for that too? 'Cause they may have questions for you. Yep, at the city council meeting. Okay, thank you. Nothing further, we're adjourned.
We already made the motion, right?
Yeah.
Yep.